Alright, YouTube, we are back with another video. Today we're doing the GOAT list, the top 15 greatest UFC fighters of all time. I mean, one is a mandatory for basically everyone making an MMA YouTube channel. Because how the hell are you going to know who knows ball and who doesn't? Alright, I'm here to tell you I know ball. And before we start with any type of rankings, gotta go over the criteria. How are we going to rank these fighters? These four are not in order, just a general way of ranking them. So just a general way to kind of group these guys in. Quality of wins, how good were the people you were fighting, which we tend to see some of the older guys may not have had the best competition. Quantity, how many wins have you had? How many big wins have you had? Longevity, how long can you last in the sport? A lot of guys are in quick and out just as fast as they came. So longevity and as well the dominance of wins. So how well and how dominant did you win fights? And you'll see some guys in here that fell more towards the back of the list because they just couldn't dominantly win fights. A lot of points, a lot of wins by the judges. Not what I would like to, not what I like to see when I'm ranking GOATs. Some honorable mentions. Some guys that just couldn't make the top 15. I mean, these guys are some of the greats. Some people who have really paved the way, but just couldn't crack this top 15. I mean, some of these guys do deserve a spot, just not in my list. We got Dominic Cruz, Charles Oliveira, Randy Couture, Henry Cejudo, TJ Dillashaw, and of course Conor McGregor. Again, some of the greats just couldn't make it. Starting off with a bit of a hot take. Number 15, Jose Aldo. Some people may not like this at all. I see some people on Twitter talking about how he's top 5. Me personally, there's no argument for him being top 5. I mean, when we talk about quality of wins, who has he beat? We're talking about WEC, right? Kenny Florian comes to mind. Chad Mendez. Guys like that, Frankie Edgar. I mean, these are guys who would have a hard time being ranked today. So I don't see the quality of wins. 32-9, ran featherweight for a while in the prehistoric era. 10 title wins in a row. I mean, that alone is enough to keep him in the top 15. But when you really take a deep dive in and don't just look from the outside, it's just not enough. Some notable losses: Max twice, Volk, Connor. People love to say that he was old when he was losing these fights or that he was out of his prime. Jose was 29 or 30 years old when he lost to Connor. He was in the physical prime of his life when he was losing to Connor, Max, and Volk. He was in the physical prime. He just did not have the tools necessary to win these fights. Some other notable losses that come to mind are Peter Yan, Marab. These are guys that are top level, and I just don't think Jose Aldo has enough elite wins. Next, we have the guy that beat Jose Aldo twice, finished him twice. We have Max Blessed Holloway, 26-8, 5 title wins, 2 KO wins over Aldo, wins over Arnold Allen, Yair, Justin Gaethje. The thing with Max Holloway, why I can't put him further. 3 losses to Alexander Volkanovski, who you'll see later in this list. To me, you can't be near that top 10 if you're losing to a guy 3 times. I mean, even DC got one over Stipe 3 times, with each getting worse and worse. And I know he held his own in those fights, especially the second one, but the third one not so much. He got battered from start to finish in that fight. So Max Holloway falls in at number 14. Number 13. Now this one is a little bit of a hot take too. Israel Adesanya, 24-4, 8 title wins. He's got a lot. Wins over Pereira, Whitaker, 2 times over Cannonier. 2 times over Whitaker, I'm sorry. Cannonier, Vettori. To me, it's the losses and it's the dominance of these wins for Adesanya that doesn't put him higher. I think he falls in real nicely at 13 because these wins over Cannonier, Vettori, they were snooze fests. I mean, Adesanya is one of those guys that when he became champion, he got real comfortable. Staying on the outside, landing maybe 10 strikes around, leg kicking, 1-2s, running around, not trying to engage because he just wanted to keep his belt, didn't want to win, didn't want to lose. He didn't want to lose, he just... No. He didn't... He didn't want to win. He just didn't want to lose, if you know what I mean. Anyway, he's got some losses. Most recently to DDP, where he looked pretty good. Just didn't have enough for him. His punches seemed to not do anything to Dricus. I mean, he just really couldn't do anything to him. Dricus was landing the bigger shots, got the sub. He loses as a 10-1 favorite against Sean Strickland. Gets knocked out by Pereira. Tried to go up to 205 and win the belt against Jan Blachowicz and got mauled. So this is where Izzy stays for me, number 13. Number 12, his African brother, Kamaru Usman, 20-4, 6 title wins. Wins over Masvidal twice, Colby twice, Burns, and a prime Tyron Woodley. To me, he ranks slightly above Adesanya due to knockout wins, being able to dominate guys, not put us all to sleep. And his losses were way better. Adesanya has been dominated multiple times. He was dominated by Strickland. He was dominated by Dricus. He was dominated by Blachowicz. Kamaru's losses are a little bit different. We got Leon on that 5th round head kick where Usman was cruising and dominating Leon, gets caught with one shot. Then he comes back, loses over 5 rounds. And then to Khamzat on short notice. Up a weight class. So to me, Usman has been way more dominant, been way more up at the top. Adesanya's been losing fights to guys who really shouldn't even be in there with him, if we're going off of who he was when he was a champion. So I have Kamaru Usman at number 12. Number 11, second best lightweight of all time, Islam Makhachev, 26-1, 4 title wins. He's got a win over Oliveira, win over Dustin, and 2 wins over Volk. KO'd by Adriano Martins. I don't hold that loss highly at all. Just keeping it in there. Because I got to tell you, So basically, for me, Islam doesn't fall higher on this list because of his wins. I think his resume is wildly overrated as of now, and I just can't see a way that he's in the top 10. I mean, Khabib had basically the same wins except for Oliveira, but Khabib did them in a dominant fashion. Islam makes these wins look real tough. I mean, really tough. We're talking about Oliveira, which was his best win. That one wasn't tough by any means. Then we go to Volkanovski, who on a full camp took him 5 rounds and ended the 5th by dropping him, mounting him, and pummeling his face against the canvas. Now that's a 45er on a full camp. Then he accepts the fight on short notice, gets knocked out. I don't hold that win highly at all. I mean, we're talking about a guy at 45 who's coming up on short notice. That win doesn't rank highly for me at all. And then you have Dustin. The Dustin win wasn't great either. I mean, he barely dominated that fight. He won a lot of striking exchanges and he won the majority of the grappling exchanges. But going to the 5th round with a well out of prime Dustin Poirier who just got knocked out cold by Gaethje way quicker than you could do it. Way quicker than Islam could finish the fight. I mean, I struggled to find the dominance in these wins besides Oliveira, and for that, he's my number 11. Number 10, Ilia Topuria. 16-0, 2 title wins. Hear me out. I have Ilia at number 10 because of the domination and how he's winning these fights. To this day, Ilia Topuria is I would say the second least, maybe third least tested UFC fighter of all time. Behind John, behind Khabib, and then there's Ilia. You could even say John's been tested more. Ilia's closest fight in his career was against Jai Herbert, where he was going up a weight class and he got head kicked. And that fight ended less than 5 minutes later with Jai Herbert and his eyes rolled to the back of his head, laying face first on the canvas, barely a heartbeat. I mean, Ilia has dominated pretty much every single person he's fought to the extent of KOs, 50-42s, and had the best back-to-back wins in UFC history. To go out there and knock out the number 1 featherweight of all time and the number 2 featherweight of all time, and 2 guys who are in the top 15 ever. Knock them out cold within 3 rounds each. I think it's the dominance for me that does it. To go out there and sub Bryce Mitchell, who was undefeated at the time and is one of the best grapplers at featherweight, to beat him up on the feet and then sub him, and then to absolutely destroy Josh Emmett on the feet to the point where one judge gave it a 50-42. There was a 10-7 on one of those rounds. I believe it was the 4th. That is domination, and that's why Ilia is my number 10. Number 9, Alex Pereira. 12-2, 5 title wins. Wins over Izzy, Jan, Yuri 2 times, Strickland, and Jamal Hill. Pereira has 3 KO title defenses in a year. He's coming off one of the best years of a fighter ever. 3 KO title wins. No, not title wins, title defenses in a year with only 1 loss to Israel Adesanya. I believe Pereira is just doing things at his own level. I mean, he's showing us a level of dominance that's comparable to Khabib, what Khabib was doing on the ground, but on the feet, if that makes sense. Pure domination against real guys who are real strikers, and only one loss to Izzy, in which Izzy is terrified and running and wants no part of the third fight, obviously, because Alex is up 3-1 all the time. I think with a win over Ankalaev, he could be way higher because beating a Dagestani, that with the wrestling upside, that holds some serious weight. So, but for now, he's at number 9. Number 8, DC, 22-3, 7 title wins. DC is one of my favorites, man. DC is that guy, one of the best combat athletes to ever live. He's got wins over Stipe, 2 over Anthony Johnson, Anthony Johnson, 1 over Anderson Silva, 1 over Gustafsson. DC, man. The only reason DC can't be higher to me is because of the losses to Stipe and John. They don't hold as much weight to me, considering he's number 8. But to only lose to the GOATs says something. I mean, that goes through his entire career. He's only lost to the GOATs. Stipe, John, Cael Sanderson back when he was in college. I mean, this guy, I wish I could put DC higher, but for good reason, he's not. Number 7, Alexander Volkanovski. 26-4, 6 title wins. I mean, this guy Volk, man. He's got 3 wins over Max Holloway, each of which getting more dominant. He's got a dominant win over Yair, a win over Brian Ortega where he really had to fight and battle back. He's got a win over Aldo, and a 5-round war with Islam. Yes, that is a good. That helps his conversation for me. That helps his case a lot to me. I mean, 5-round war with Islam, where a lot of people thought he won that fight. Me personally, I did not, but it does help his case in my opinion. He's only got losses to Islam and Ilia Topuria. This guy Volk, I mean, I wish I could put him higher, but reigned on 145 for a very long time. For that, he's number 7. Number 6, Stipe Miocic, 20-5, 6 title wins at heavyweight. He's got wins over DC twice. He's got a win over Francis, a win over JDS, a win over Overeem. Stipe has some worse losses than DC for sure, but I can't put DC higher simply to the fact that Stipe got him twice. Stipe got him twice. For that, he's number 6. To have this many title wins at heavyweight says a lot. He's definitely the greatest heavyweight of all time. He was real old to be fighting John. So for that, he stays at number 6. Time for the top 5. Starting off with Khabib, the Eagle Nurmagomedov, 29-0. He's got wins over Conor, Dustin, Justin, all submissions. The only negative thing you can say about this guy in his career is the fact he retired early. I mean, he wasn't tested at all. Nobody tested Khabib at all. 29-0. I think the only thing you could take away from him is he just retired early and he wasn't that active. I mean, this guy had serious GOAT potential, but he just didn't get to really prove himself to that extent. I think with a few more wins, he could have easily been number 1 if he took out Charles, a few other guys. He could have easily been number 1. But for that, he stays at number 5. Number 4, Anderson, the Spider Silva, 34-11, 11 straight title wins, 9 by finish out of those 11. And he's got the longest win streak in UFC history. Anderson Silva, I mean, in his prime, he was a absolute wrecking ball. Nobody was even on the same galaxy as him. I mean, the only reason he lost to Weidman was because he was too good and didn't really want to fight the guy. He was kind of just messing around and got clipped. Then, of course, he breaks his leg. And by that point, he's 39 years old. So for that, Anderson Silva will stay at 4. I think what happened with him, why he can't be higher, is simply because he had the end of career decline of hell, is what I would like to call it. I mean, he lost to basically every single person he fought because he was very old, out of shape, not in his prime. I mean, he reigned from 2006 all the way to 2012. Spider was too damn good, but age and unfortunately the leg breaks and lack of focus inside the Octagon leaves him at number 4. Now here's where I'm going to shake stuff up a little bit. I have GSP at 3. 26-2, 13 title wins. He's got wins over Bisping, BJ Penn, Sarah Hughes. To me, I just can't put GSP higher because of the losses. I know he avenged them, and I know he did it in the exact way he lost to them the first time. It's kind of I'm way better than you. I can do whatever I want, but I just can't. If I'm ranking the GOATs, I think we need to have a conversation about who can actually be perfect, who can be that good that even on their bad days, they're not getting finished. I mean, getting finished twice, I have to leave them at 3 because the next few guys, the next 2 guys are as pretty much perfect as they come. Mighty Mouse. Got Mighty Mouse. I got Demetrius Johnson at number 2, 27-3. 12 straight title wins. Wins over Benavidez twice, Ray Borg, Cejudo, Dotson. I know you might be saying, oh, but GSP has less losses than Mighty Mouse. What do you mean? Whatever. Mighty Mouse was a baby when he was fighting and lost to Dominic Cruz, who is the best bantamweight of all time. And then he had a loss in his first UFC fight to Brad Pickett. I mean, these fights were just a very young, unexperienced Demetrius Johnson, and then his third loss to Cejudo, which at that point the UFC wanted him out because he was too good. They wanted him out. They knew they were going to have Cejudo win if he got to the distance. It was a split decision. DJ was piecing him up. They wanted him out. They traded him out right after. They want to erase Demetrius Johnson from our memory for good. Not going to let it happen. 12 straight title wins, 7 finishes. You can't say enough good things about Demetrius Johnson. And for that, he's my number 2. Number 1, we all know what's going to happen. Jon Jones. Jon Jones, 29-0. Yes, I took away the loss and I added it as a win because 12-6 elbows are legal now. What are you going to do? 29-0, 17 straight title wins. I mean, dominating the sport since he was 23 years old. He's 38 now. The greatest of all time. The only thing you can say about him is PEDs, and I hate to break it to you, everybody's on PEDs. All right, it's just because he's the best that people use that as a leverage to take him down. Everyone's on PEDs. All right, the youngest champion of all time, the greatest fighter ever, and that is my GOAT list.